Well, as you all know, Breiden Fehoko was a defensive lineman for the LSU Tigers, a Fiesta Bowl win, a national champion in 2019, 15-0, and now he's making a living in the NFL with the Los Angeles Chargers. Breiden, how you doing, man?
It's a pleasure. I'm humbled to be here, and just great to see a familiar face.
Yeah, Breiden, talking to you, seeing your face, I feel like I'm being transported back into the year 2019, when everything was hunky-dory with LSU football.
I mean, great times. You can't ask for anything more perfect. A perfect setup, a perfect storm. But certainly a wonderful just time to be in Baton Rouge. I mean, great people, great teammates, great coaches, great media personnel like yourself. Just everybody that was involved just made it worthwhile being there.
Breiden, 2 years removed from it, looking back, I know, like, when I used to visit with some of the players and their parents, even like Jamar Chase's parents told me, is like, as soon as we play a game, we're on to the next one. We're on to the next one. And I know, like, as a player, you could never reflect. The second you'd start looking back is when you trip and fall. But now that you're 2 years removed from it, is it hard to believe that it all happened, that you were such a big part of it and that team did what it did?
The more 2019 starts to seep away and the more I get older, the more I appreciate it. Coming off the championship season, going into my rookie year last year, it was just like, oh yeah, wow, what we did was cool. But as I start watching, college football every year, more and more, time after time, and I see different teams in the playoffs, I see, Georgia win this year, Alabama win last year, I start to appreciate more just the whole combined nature of what we're able to do as a team and how great of the level of competition we're able to do it at. I see teams like Cincinnati and Michigan, and I'm very vocal about my sports opinions on Twitter, and I see those two teams trying to compete with Alabama and Georgia, and I see what we're able to do to them my senior year. It's like, there's no competition, and I say that in a way that when you look at what we did in 2019, it was amazing. I mean, we were literally blowing teams out the water. And it made you appreciate the talent level on that team. And it's like when I see guys every week, whenever we play, Cincinnati or Kansas City or Denver, and I see Lloyd, Clyde, or Joe or PQ of Baltimore, it always comes back to, man, like, I love you, brother. Like, what we did that year and what we did together it's going to bond us forever.
That's amazing. Yeah, as a media member, I just described it as every day was exciting. It didn't even matter, like, go to practice for 15 minutes or Coach O's radio show or his press conference on Monday. There was always this electricity in the air. You had all these national media coming to town. Joe Burrow's Tuesday night interviews were an event. There was a perimeter of media that went all the way around him. And, it's like, wow, how lucky am I? I get paid to do this, Even if LSU went 0-12, I'd be lucky to do what I do. But yeah, that was just is that kind of the way it felt, or were you in the bubble and maybe some of that excitement, I guess you weren't allowed maybe to enjoy it as much as because you were, got to keep your edge.
Trust me. I mean, there's times, how Coach O was. I mean, don't read into the tweeter machine. And so it's it's very hard to not see the, just the whole big picture of what you've been able to accomplish throughout the season. But there's certain times where, you're able to appreciate it and feel like, wow, it's bigger than myself. Like, I mean, me and Zach Von Rosenberg we go to LeBurge, we were normals there, and people were just like, man, like the dealers are like, man, y'all got to go get it this week. We haven't been this good in a while. And people just, man, we're so thankful for what you guys have done. And man, keep going, no pressure. I mean, you guys are playing at an elite level this year. And, wherever you go, people would stop. I'd be with my family. We'd be out at like Chimes. Chimes is always a good place. We'd always love to go eat the day after games and on Sundays. And people just be like, man, we're so thankful. The team, you guys have turned this thing around, and things like that just kind of made you appreciate, like, wow, we're doing something for the city and we're doing something bigger than ourselves. And like, when you step out of that bubble, being at LSU all the time, you kind of realize, like, wow, this does mean a lot. and it's good to keep us as players when we were at the time away from the outside noise, outside distraction. But in a way, you kind of appreciate it, and it kind of motivates you more when you see people, just normal people, coming up to you and saying they appreciate you and what you're doing for the city and the state, and it just means a lot.
I remember being in Dallas, the Arlington area there, 2018. You guys are playing Miami, and it's a really big season opener. Miami's ranked in the top 10. Lots of questions about LSU, and is this team going to go 6-6 or worse? And Root's going to cave in and all that. And I met these real sweet, nice, enthusiastic people named the Fehokos in a hotel lobby. And they said, "We're here for our son." And your father said, "Yeah, we took the canoe all the way from
Hawaii
to get here."
I remember that. I remember watching that interview.
And I laughed so hard, and you said, "Oh, he's told that joke for years, But yeah, it's hard to I can't. There's a few, but it's hard to remember a family like yours that gets so entrenched with the community where, Louisiana people, Cajun, we've got our great background, and then they just gravitated to what you guys brought to the table with the Haka dance and all that stuff.
It's when I look at how far I've come, I wouldn't be in the position I am today without my family, my parents. My parents appreciate just being around good, genuine people. And when I got to Louisiana, it was like my parents were back in Hawaii, because the people of Louisiana are just so welcoming. I mean, the food is good. I mean, you want to get close to my dad's heart and my heart, you just have good food. And so my dad gets there. We get on an official visit. That's another story. Coach O was giving my dad like 10 pounds of crawfish to take back to his hotel and gumbo. And it's the first time. And we just, from the moment we got there, my parents never doubted like Louisiana or anybody that was involved with LSU one bit. Like sometimes you go on other visits, or sometimes you go look at other colleges and it's like, oh, there's a red flag here. There's a red flag here. Or I don't think this is a comfortable suit for me. Louisiana was just a place where my parents just embraced the culture, and we enjoyed it from the first day I got there, first game playing in Miami, to the last game I played against Clemson.
Yeah, and your mom gave such a great heartfelt soundbite. It was in New Orleans when you guys showed up for the national championship at your team hotel, and your parents were outside. And
yeah.
And your mom was in tears, just thanking LSU and the fans for letting her son be a part of this, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, coming up to that point, I'd been through a lot. I just transferred from Texas Tech. I sat out a whole year, and like it was, even when I had left Texas Tech, it was such a leap of faith. Like my parents were like, "You sure you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You started every game, and you have something good going on here consistently, but if that's where your heart is and that's what you want to do, we're going to support you." And that's why she's so emotional, is because she's seen the ride and just the journey, traveled, and how far I've come.
Yeah, and you spoke to the team and how great it was. And we have a tendency of, whether it's a song on the radio or whatever, say this is the best I've ever heard or the best I've ever seen or whatever. But I mean, you look at that team in 2019, the Alabama game will read 46-41 was the final score, but you guys led by 20 at the half.
Yeah.
And you're driving to make it 40-13. I think Joe got blindsided. The ball goes up in the air. Alabama caught it. And he had a double-digit lead late in the game, blew a coverage on a one-on-one there. But
and the crazy part, Jock, about that coverage is, Bama the whole game, just their offense, they run a fast up-tempo system. So sometimes they do a dummy snap count and they look to the sideline, check, they get the new play, and then they, audible, do whatever they do. So they were doing that most of the game. And it comes to that third quarter where they go to the sideline, and we were taught whenever Bama looks to the sideline to check their play, we always look to the sideline to Aranda to check our play. And so as soon as Bama did that and we turned, Tua snapped the ball, and it was like, I mean, come on, y'all are Alabama, y'all trying to run some trick plays. Like, come on, let's get this thing rolling, man. Like, y'all are too good to be doing trick plays out here trying to beat us. But when I mean, I look at, I'm just like, when people say like, do y'all really think you're the best? Like, yeah, we had Alabama using trick plays trying to beat us. Like, come on now.
Devontae Smith, who, to his credit, from Amite, Louisiana, won the Heisman Trophy last year. I think that happened twice. And I remember Stingley in the first half looking at the sideline like this, like he was upset with somebody that he'd run right past him or whatever. But yeah, and I guess you see those Alabama guys too. Obviously, Tua is playing with the Dolphins, and some of those other guys you went up against as well.
I mean, they're hell of a player, hell of a team. I mean, those guys are, I mean, what they're doing in the NFL. I mean, Devontae Smith, for a guy that's been undersized and, been able to do what he's been doing at his size, and people talk about he's too light, or, he's just a speed guy and all that stuff. And I just give them a lot of credit for what they're doing and what he's been able to do with that program, especially with Tua being from Hawaii. It's not hard. It's not easy from Hawaii to come from Hawaii and play for a team in the South. So much credit to Nick Saban and what he's been able to do with those guys. And you see the progress and the product they've been able to produce in the NFL. Just goes to show that they're running a good program down there as well.
All right. The people watching this saying, enough about Alabama, Jacques. But I was
hey, you got to give credit where it's due,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I did a tweet, Facebook post the other day, just congratulating Georgia, for winning the SEC. They're kind of your family, but they're not. I mean, you're trying to beat them and whatever, but then when they do well on their own, you got to say, okay, they're from our conference. And,
wish them well. Wish them well.
Hey, 1980. You were not born in 1980.
Yeah, I wasn't even. Yeah, I probably wasn't even thought of in 1980.
Last time they won a national championship, but and to your credit, I didn't do the research, and I know Breiden so well. I didn't do any research, didn't write anything down. Just having a conversation here. But I think 14 guys drafted from that LSU team, and you were not drafted. And to your credit, it shows how talented the team was. So you played in 8 games this past year with the Chargers. You took your lunch pail, took your lunchbox to work every day, and here you are.
Yeah, the NFL is it's stressful, but it's so worth the while. Starting off my rookie year on practice squad, and then playing later in the season, playing 2 games later in the season, my rookie year, and then coming back this year, thinking I was going to have a bigger role. I get cut after camp again. I go on practice squad for the first 6-7 weeks. And then I get signed up, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm in my room, and I'm like, man, this isn't what I envisioned. I thought I'd be playing, and I thought I'd be starting, and I thought this and this and this and this. Boy, was I wrong. And that's one thing about football, and especially NFL. It makes you appreciate the journey, like we've talked about, just from LSU up until now. It makes you appreciate the work. It makes you appreciate every little opportunity and thing you've done to get to that point. I get my first start against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. I ball out. We have a great game. I play the rest of the season. That's things that, although I had thought before the season, I thought it was going to go a certain way. I'm glad it went the way it did, because I wouldn't trade a thing for it. I mean, worked for everything I got, and the results and how it ended. I mean, yeah, I wish we could have been in the playoffs, no doubt about that, but I'm very happy and I'm very satisfied in where I ended up.
I should ask you, I think I saw it, I'm trying to remember, but you were a big part of the HBO Hard Knocks show, right?
Correct.
Tell me about that and the reaction to it.
Man, it's so funny. I'm meeting with my exit meeting the other day with my defensive coordinator, Ronaldo Hill, and we call him Noddy. So Noddy, we're talking, face to face, and he's like, man, Bray, everybody calls me Bray with the Chargers. He's like, Bray, it's so crazy, man. And I thought he was going to get into like some deep football talk. He's like, when I think about you, Bray, and the opportunity we've had this year, I think about Hard Knocks. And he's like, I think it's so cool, man. Like, I was watching Hard Knocks last year when I was with Denver, and I was like, man, this dude's so dope. And now I got to coach you this year. Like, man, that's so crazy. And it's crazy. We're just laughing about it. And that experience alone was amazing. I mean, not only what it did for just my off the field career of broadcasting and trying to get into television, but to see how much people it impacted, to see how much outreach it had for my culture. I had I had NBA guys, NHL, MLB guys, just like, bro, this is so dope. Like, man, I love the culture. I love this and this. And fans just sending me long messages on social media, just talking about Breiden, man. Like, this is probably one of the coolest things, because it not only showed, the Haka, what I was able to do, but it showed, just every day, like what I do with my family. We hop on Zoom, we talk every week, and sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's stressful, because that's what families are, so they got to show a little bit of that, my personal life, and just show the type of personality I am outside of football. And that was the dopest thing when I got done, and after the training camp was finally over and I got to talk to the Hard Knock staff. I just told them, I said, man, I'm thankful for, the opportunity. And I told the directors and I told all the people that were involved, like, this was so crazy. You grow up watching Hard Knocks, and you watch guys like with the Ravens back in 2000 with Saragusa and Ray Lewis and Shannon Sharp. Now you get to experience that, and now you get to be a part of that. And it's like, wow, this is Hard Knocks. It's something that I wish every NFL player could be experiencing right now.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. Everyone was proud of you watching it and watching you do well. And so that's good stuff. Did Ed Orgeron ever do the Haka dance?
I know he had a deal with the media that said if we had beat Alabama, he was going to do in the locker room. I mean, there was a lot of things we were doing in the locker room after Alabama when we beat them.
Yeah.
Coach O never got to do it. And it was just, we were rolling that year. And like, I know it was a deal he had made earlier on in the season. And so he might have never forgotten, who knows?
To be fair, I don't think he ever said Alabama. I think he said something like, if we beat a certain team, but we all assumed
okay, yeah. That's what
that was, but
that's what it was. So yeah, after we beat Alabama, I mean, we were just so happy. And like, our locker room was just packed with, we were in Tuscaloosa. And so like, we had alumni there, and certain people I've never met in my life, just like coming up to me, congratulating me after the game. So I know it was a pretty busy moment for him. And then when we got back to the airport, people were greeting us outside the gates and stuff. So, I mean, I know he owes me one. So hopefully when I see him one day, wherever he is in Destin or in Louisiana, he's going to have to pop one off for me.
There you go. I got a little secret, Breiden. Some of those important people, they don't come around when they go 5-5 and 6-6. Just saying. But
very true. I kind of figured that out. The handshakes were a lot more firmer.
Right. So I think it's 2 years ago, almost to the date, that we're at the PMAC. You guys have a celebration. You have a parade. You go down the hill between Tiger Stadium and the PMAC. There's thousands upon thousands of people there. It's a Mardi Gras-like parade celebrating this national champion. There's 13,000 or so people inside the PMAC. I think they had to turn people away. Celebrating this team. Dan Barnett, the voice of the PMAC, the AP Coach of the Year, the blah, blah, blah Coach of the Year, everybody's Coach of the Year, Ed Orgeron, standing ovation. Burrow's there, you're there, this whole team. To see where we are 2 years later, is it shocking to you? What's it been like to watch LSU football from that point to now?
Wow. It's a little disappointing, but it's expected, because the way we were able to win that championship that quick in that turnaround. I mean, Joe got there in 2018. I got there in 2017. Just the amount of different changes. Joe Brady got there in 2019. It was bound to happen, right? We go what did we go in 2018? 10-3, I think.
10-3, and then you got that A&M game, which is kind of a lot of people think you should put an
So,
asterisk on that.
we should have been 11-2,
Yeah.
When you look at the lead up until the championship, we go 10-3, should have been 11-2. And then 2019, we go 15-0. You just said it. We I don't know how much guys got drafted, 14, 15 guys. And then all of us who are draft eligible are all in the NFL.
I think there were 5 or 6 free agents at some.
5 or 6 free agents, and
Yeah.
we're all in the NFL. And 20, 21 guys, you turn around, it's hard to replace that. I mean, I don't care who you are or what team you play for or how much of a powerhouse your team is. 21 guys that have either started or had a major significant role on a championship team for 2 years, you take that away. Now you have to rebuild. When I watched LSU play in 2020, that first game against Mississippi State, when Buddy from Mississippi State broke the record, what I saw was a bunch of guys playing hard, competing. But more than what I noticed was there was just so much, like, I don't want to say disorientation, but I just feel like a lot of not comfortable within the scheme of what guys are trying to play. I saw guys on that team trying to be 15-0 LSU. That's not what you want. Once that season goes out the drain, and a lot of people need to realize this, every team has a new identity and a new character of its own. Like, you can't have LSU come out this year and try to be 15-0 2019 LSU. That's not going to happen. We were our own team. That's our own identity. You got to come out and create an identity, whether it's you go 10-3 LSU this year or you go 11-2. You have to create a foundation, because if you just try to live off of what we did in 2019, you're never going to accomplish it, and you're always going to be looking from behind. Because what we did was we caught lightning in a bottle and we ran with it. If you want the truth, that's what we did. We had a great team. We had the best quarterback in the nation. We had one of the best passing game coordinators, OC combinations, one of the top DCs in the nation, who his resume speaks for itself at Baylor right now. And we had 21 NFL guys on that team. You can't do that. You can't reciprocate that. What you got to do is create your own identity. And I think that's what they need to do. And when I watch LSU the past 2 years, it's just an identity crisis, just trying to find out who they are. I think they're trying to struggle, trying to keep up to that 15-0 standard. I think if they go 10-2 in the regular season, I think we're all kind of satisfied with that. But the drop off of 5-5, that's where it's like, man, what's going on? What's wrong? I think they're just trying to fill big shoes, but they're doing it in the wrong way.
And everybody had to deal with it, so to speak. But when you guys, I'm talking about COVID, when you guys finished up the national championship team, I'm thinking, well, Miles Brennan's going to be throwing to Jamar Chase and Terrace Marshall next year, and they're going to have Tyler Shelvin on the defensive line. And this guy, Marcel Brooks, he looks pretty good. He could be a up-and-coming guy. And Kerry Vincent's going to be a veteran in the secondary.
And all those guys.
For different reasons, that didn't really transpire, whether it's Brennan's injury 3 games in, Chase opting out, Marshall opting out 6 or 7 games in, whatever it was, and different people opting out before the year started. Jamar Chase's dad, I think, put it well. He said it was a perfect storm of crap was the way he put it. With the racial tensions also, it was just 2020 was the worst year of our lives, really, for many different reasons. And it impacted the team and no crowds in Tiger Stadium, no atmospheres. It was a zombie season that year. So
I'm glad we're here where we are now.
Yeah.
But I mean, just now that you bring it up, it's like, wow, there was a lot of stuff, just not even football related, that went on that year. I mean, the racial injustice, COVID, leading up to January of 22. I mean, Kobe Bryant's death.
Yes.
It's a lot of stuff that led up that year was just like, wow, 2020 was an effed up year.
Yeah, it was. And this year, look, and I was willing to just throw that out and just say, look, now we're starting clean again, but then the 2021 season begins and UCLA punches you in the mouth and it's like, this is not trending in the right direction. And so here we are now. And, you go to a bowl game. You played in the Texas Bowl in 2015 for Texas Tech.
Yeah.
You remember it was sold out. You had Leonard Fournette for LSU. You had a guy named Patrick Mahomes playing quarterback for you. This year, LSU goes to the Texas Bowl. They got like 38 scholarship players. There's like 15,000 people there. I'm like, wow, this is not this is not what it was the first time I came to this bowl game. So.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say about watching them in that bowl game is, man, I got the utmost respect for those guys. Because I'm going to be blatantly honest here. If you're not playing in a New Year's Six bowl, if you're not playing in the playoffs, no college player wants to play in a bowl game. Like
today,
no,
you mean? Back
today,
then you did
today,
maybe.
today,
Right now.
yes, today. You've got the NIL deals, you got guys opting out, you got guys, I mean, it's rightfully so. I mean, guys are thinking about their future and thinking about their longevity of their health and career. Why would a player, if I know I'm getting drafted in the first round or second round at the latest, want to go play, I won't say meaningless bowl, but go play in a
exhibition,
in a subpar exhibition, knowing that in one play I could snap my knee or break my collarbone and risk everything that I've worked for all year, all for 4 years I've been at the university, and just wipe it down the drain. And that's why I kind of understand both sides. I understand where the fans are coming from, and I understand where the players are coming from, because fans all year, they wait all year just to get to watch us play for 12 regular season, 13 opportunities throughout the year. They're fans. I mean, that's the closest and most integrated opportunity they'll ever get to come close to us, is watching us play football and watching the best players do it. But I also understand when a player has an opportunity to make millions of dollars and the school won't be able to fund him if something happens, or a fan won't be able to fund him if something happens. So I understand both sides. And I think, and it's a long thing I have for another time, but I think the NIL opportunities are kind of wasting away college opportunities for these players. I think the amateurism college football was at made college football that much more worthwhile and more emotion, just playing for the universities. Now you throw all this money at kids. Now it's like, do I really want to go play football? Do I really want to play this season? I'm going to just sign this NIL deal with so-and-so and I'm good. I got my money. Like, I'm good. I'm not worried about the university, Yeah. I mean, I think there's a certain way to compensate kids in college football. I think you can do it through academics, and I think you can do it through athletics, but just throwing the crazy lump sum amount of money at these college football players at a young age is the wrong thing to do at this time.
Yeah. And yeah, the NIL stuff. Look, I covered guys. There was a guy named Trev Falk who was a linebacker in the late 90s, and he used to talk about how he was good friends with the guy from Lafayette. They were good friends, and he said, "Oh yeah, he had a car, so he could drive me home to Lafayette. Like, this guy's making 100 tackles a year, and he doesn't have a car to drive home. And so, in those cases, it's like, okay, that's ridiculous. You should have enough money to buy a car or do stuff like that. But does it go too far? You don't want kids becoming mercenaries, threatening, hey, I'm going to go to Alabama, and if you don't get me such and such amount of money, I'm going to Alabama, and somebody's got to step in. And I don't know. I think the fans go to the games. I think it is true that the players who play for LSU are making a lot of money for the university and whatnot. But I think the fans go for the name on the side of the helmet, not the name on the back of the jersey. They're going because they love LSU football. And Breiden Fehoko, Joe Burrow, all these people are part of that. But I don't know. I don't know where it's going right now, Breiden. You could have made a lot of money on Hawaiian Punch. Did you think about that?
Dude, I could have. Look, I tell all these young cats in college that are coming out, and I had to talk with Neil and I talk with Austin and all these young guys that are coming out of LSU. I'm like, bro, yeah, it's honestly pathetic that y'all have no NIL deals right now. Like, I told them I would have made a killing in college. I would have had net a mil right now if I was in college racking up NIL deals. I said I had to wait till the NFL to start getting real money. But I told him, I said, bro, people think like I'm LSU football player, I'm an Alabama football player. Like, show me the money. Like, it doesn't work like that. You got to go sell yourself. You're a brand. And I tell him, I'm like, man, you got to, your personality, like, people always like all the young guys like, man, why do you tweet so much? I'm like, bro, people love it. People love my personality. People love to know what I'm doing on a regular basis, to know what goes on in my mind. Like when you start interacting more with people, people start to appreciate that, and people can start to build off of what you have to offer to the table. If you don't have anything to offer to the table, they're never going to offer you a seat at the table. And that's just facts.
Yeah.
And man, you name Hawaiian Punch. I'm just going to go through the list. I mean, there's a Hawaiian barbecue place in Baton Rouge off of is it Airline? It's like more in the back towards like Perkins, like you go you grabbing Perkins. I would have made off of killing with them. Whataburger in Baton Rouge for sure. I would have made a killing. I was spending money there every night. They would have made a killing. Small sliders, killing. Would have made a killing with them. I mean, I would have had to deal with a bar in Tigerland just based off of just who I am. I mean, it probably would have been Fred's, the house, somebody would have signed me to an NIL deal.
Yeah, and your parents too. It could have been, we're at the Fehokos, and
easily,
before the game, we go to blah blah blah.
Easily. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine like me and my dad making an appearance at the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, or Fred's. It's like, come on, Shaq's over there. So
devil's advocate here, devil's advocate. But with so many stars on that team, do you think guys would have ever been distracted at some point, their NIL stuff, and not on football, and you could have slipped up somewhere along the way?
That's a great point. And I will say not really, because ultimately what won us our championship that year, we did have a great coaching staff, great schematics, but the players won us the championship that year. We were so accountable of each other. So I don't know if you saw that clip. I retweeted it the other day of the championship game where Nakobe Dean got into it with the other linebacker for Georgia on that 2-point play. He kind of messed up, did the wrong assignment. And then the very next drive or very next play, he's out there sacking Bryce Young. We had that every day in practice, every game we played. There was so much player-led accountability and leadership that we weren't going to let nothing come in our way. And that's why I say, like, yeah, devil's advocate would have been, oh, these guys are making a lot of money and it could be a distraction. But we were so locked in and laser focused, like nothing was going to get in our way of getting a championship.
I can't imagine Joe Burrow, what would have been thrown his way that year when he's winning the Heisman and all that. I mean, well, there was a lot thrown his way that year, but he locked himself up in that building, and he was
laser focused.
Yeah. I mean, he's winning the Heisman, and he wants to get the hell out of there. He wants to start getting ready for Oklahoma with you guys.
Yeah, before the play. I remember so the Heisman ceremony was that Sunday night, I think, or Saturday. And we had workouts Monday, and Joe's in there, and we're like, bro, what are you doing? You just won the Heisman. Like, go take some time. We don't play Oklahoma for another 2 or 3 weeks, because this is like bowl practice. And so we're like, bro, go like enjoy this time with your family, because he's like, man, we got a game to win. And Joe was in there squatting, benching. And I'm like, I knew at that point, I'm like, yeah, we're about to mollywop Oklahoma, and we're about to go and whoop the dog, crap out of Clemson. And so, it's you appreciate that kind of stuff as a player when you look back at it.
We got video of when guys carried him off the field at Alabama, and they put him on the ground, and then he ran past our camera and he said, "On to the next one." Like he was already, it was finally slaying the dragon and beating Alabama, but it was like his feet hit the ground after being carried. On to the next one, and then
when to drop 60 on Ole Miss.
Right. That first half against Oklahoma, I don't think we'll ever see something like that again. I mean, 7 touchdown passes and a half in a playoff game. It
didn't. And I'm not saying this in the cocky way, but they didn't deserve to be on the same field as us that game. I mean, we were, whether it was them or Utah, because I remember Utah was playing Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, and if Utah had won, they were gonna like somehow slate that 4th seed. But whoever we were playing, I mean, we just knew like these guys are not on the same level of us.
I remember somebody saying, a coach or maybe a couple players saying that Oklahoma was on par with Ole Miss that year, or our team of that, a 4th or 5th place team in the SEC, basically.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I see exactly whoever said that. I can see what they meant.
A few more things with the great Breiden Fehoko. We'll get together again and talk some more, but this has been outstanding. I know people love to hear from you. Yeah, it was funny. You were on Twitter the other day and you said, back in my day, and then I had some fun. Way back in 2017, but you transferred from Texas Tech. You had to sit out the whole year, and Jonathan Giles came with you. And real quick, I don't like some of the mean-spirited stuff that's been thrown his way over the years about wearing number 7 and things not working out. The guy did his best. He's a young man, and I hope Jonathan Giles, whatever he's doing, where he ends up, he does well. It just didn't work out for him at LSU. But you two guys came over. You had to sit out the whole year. And now with the ping-ponging around, I mean, guys who were starters and stars on teams are saying goodbye. Hey, I'm going somewhere else. I think you kind of touched upon already, but is it dangerous?
That's where you start getting into, man, like this sense of entitlement. Like, no, I deserve this. No, you don't deserve. Nobody owes you nothing. You know, I understand, right? Teams have losing seasons and teams go through coaching changes and or coaches leave teams, right? I can understand that. But if you're trying to jump ship based off of the fact that, oh, I'm unhappy here, like it doesn't get easier in the NFL. You can't just ask to be traded. It don't work like that. You know, you don't just get to sit back, and especially myself as an undrafted free agent, you get signed to a team and the first day you get mother effed in meeting, you don't get to sit back and be like, hey, I want to go to the Bengals tomorrow. Can I call my agent? Man, it don't work like that, bro. Like
go to Twitter with your nice, pretty artwork and picture. I am entering the NFL portal.
the NFL portal turns into a 9-to-5 Walmart if you're not appreciative of what you have. When I look at the transfer portal nowadays for college football, I think it's great, right? I think it gives kids an opportunity to, in the right position, further their education, further their career, for the long run. But it's so dangerous because it gives so much kids a sense of entitlement. Like, oh, if this doesn't work out, it's teaching them to run away from their battles, right? I left Texas Tech because I went through 5 different D-line coaches in 2 years. As a player trying to develop my skills and hone into my craft, that's not healthy, right? You go through 2 different defensive coordinators, 5 different D-line coaches. I mean, the D-line coach that recruited me, he left when I got there. Had one coach my freshman year, fired him after the first year. Had one my sophomore year, they fired him, and then they hired another one, the 4th one, and then fired him. And then, like, that's so unhealthy as a player, as trying to develop, trying to get to the NFL for the long run. That's why I left, because there was no consistency in the development of my athletics. And when I look at these kids nowadays, you go through a 5-5 season, right? Oh man, like we losing this year. Let me go jump ship. I want to go to a winning team. I'm gonna tell you this: like scouts and NFL personnel, they look at that. Don't think it doesn't go unnoticed, right? If you can't stay in the fire, if you can't stay in the fight when it's tough, what makes an NFL coach think they can leave you in the game on 4th and 1 with the Super Bowl on the line? You know, are they willing to put their tail end out there and vouch for you and be like, I trust this kid? Well, let's look at the red flags. I mean, he dipped out on his team after a losing season. It's not something you kind of want as a player for characteristics wise. And don't get me wrong, I don't know all the details of every player that enters the transfer portal. Some may be going through personal life, decisions, and some may be just wanting to get away from adversity. In all due respect, the way I went through it, having to sit out here, really made me appreciate football a lot more. It really made me just like, man, I can't wait to be back out there. When kids have this ability to up and leave and go play in August when the season starts again, there's no appreciation of what they're missing out on.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Very well said. And yeah, I guess each case is different. But off the top of my head, the Matt Flynn story, for example, way before you got there, a 5-year guy who waits and In his 5th year, he's a starting quarterback on a national championship team. And then something you could relate to very well. What if Nick Brossette, after 3 years, says, this isn't working out, I'm leaving, or even before that? You know, he was the leading rusher on that 2018 team that you guys won the Fiesta Bowl and finished number 6 in the country. So those are the kind of stories that may get cut off at the pass if they hit the eject button and go somewhere else. So just a thought.
Very true. I look at a guy like Miles coming back.
Yeah.
I pray and I hope he just goes through the roof this year, because you just have respect for a guy like that, for what he's been through, what he stuck out at LSU. I hope he breaks records this year and just takes LSU back to the top where they belong. Awesome.
Everyone's rooting for Miles Brennan. You got any thoughts on Brian Kelly, the new head coach?
I talked to Coach Polian 2 weeks ago, and we just kind of talked about the culture, and it was a great talk. I'm not gonna lie, at first, with the hire, I was a little not disappointed, but I was a little unsure about it. I was like, man, I was hoping for a Dave Aranda hire, or maybe even a Joe Brady, somebody who's kind of been there, understood the culture. But after talking to Coach Polian and seeing more interviews with Coach Kelly, I'm excited, because they want to change the culture there, not outside of football, but they want to change the culture inside that building, on Skip Bertman Road. The culture that was there was entitlement. We were 15-0 national champions. You can't tell us nothing type of culture there. And that, excuse my language, but that shit's got to go. These young guys coming in and thinking they won or they did something for that 2019 team. That's got to go. You got to do your own work. You have to step up to the plate and build your own foundation. You can't think or you can't take apart what we did in 2019 and try to claim it as your own thing. I see these young recruits that didn't play a snap or that were still in high school during the time of we were winning that championship. And I see these guys trying to have some sense of entitlement. Like whenever I go back to, LSU during the off season, and I see them walking around like with the big chip on their shoulder and their chest is popped out. Like, man, you didn't do nothing yet, because that's when I first got to LSU. That's how the older guys treated me. That's how the Devon Godshaw treated me. That's how Arden treated me. That's how all these Greg Gilmore, man, you didn't do nothing for this program yet. Show your worth. And then you can have some respect when you start walking around here. That's what LSU needs to go back to. And I think that's what Coach Kelly and Coach Polian and all these guys that are coming in, hey, it's a clean slate. You got to show us that you can play ball for us. You got to show us that, all right, we can start respecting you as a football player. Because if you don't show us nothing, then we're never going to be able to put you out there and respect your skills as an athlete. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this program goes. I know it's in good hands. I will say that.
Very powerful, good stuff. And I guess that's what some people argue about recruiting rankings, and I'm a 5-star and this and that. And that when you guys show up and get on that practice field, you're all grunts, right? Everyone's just got to earn their keep.
I will say there's a guy in Baton Rouge that does not care what star you are. He goes by the name of Tommy Moffitt, and he doesn't care if you're a 5-star, if you're a no star, if you're from Baton Rouge, or if you're from Honolulu, Hawaii. He's going to get the most out of you. And I'm a little sad that they didn't retain Coach Tommy with the new staff. But that was a guy that before we even got to football, before we even got to the coaches, he was breaking us down and made sure that when it was time for camp, hey, Coach Joe, here's your guys. We were like, all right, we're done with you. Please leave us alone. Hey, you got it. You got enough out of us already. Like, let's go play some football. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate Coach Moffitt for that.
Yeah, it is. Change isn't easy. And there are a lot of people that were there in that building for years and years. The women that were part of the football support staff, I think that was their last game in the Texas Bowl. And Corey Raymond, Tommy Moffitt.
Right. Yes.
All these people are they're working somewhere else. They won't be working for LSU.
I know. With what they say, with every sad ending becomes a new beginning. So you know, hey, the end of an era becomes the start of a new era. And hopefully this era for LSU is nothing but success. And, you know, I still continue to root and pray. And every week I'm making bets with the other NFL guys in locker rooms about us winning, whether it's a lunch bet or whether it's a couple $100 here and there. I'm always riding with LSU. I mean, that's just what you do as a player, as a former athlete, alumni. You ride or die for your team, you know. And like I said earlier, it hurts when we lose, but I'm the first one to when we win, I'm proud because I know what work, you know, has to be put in and what's at stake.
What a poignant way to end this. Breiden Fehoko, the great Breiden Fehoko. Thanks for being with me, man. And I know fans will enjoy hearing you talk.
I'm glad we finally got able to link. It's been a while. I mean, my Wi-Fi was, across the street yesterday. You know, they got some new houses building in my area. I just bought a house here in Texas, and across the street, like we have these new builds, and like these construction workers have just no remorse for the fiber optic cables in the ground. I mean, they totally dig up the cables, the core. I mean, the terminal that feeds the Wi-Fi. Like, yo, like, y'all not realize, like, I still got to do stuff here. Like, I mean, they're just like, oh yeah, sorry, man, call your internet provider. My internet provider gets out here yesterday. He's like, man, I can't do this job. He's like, I need to get the engineer out here. We need to put in a whole new cable, a whole new, just everything. They needed to excavate everything underground, and it was so bad. That's why I was like, I couldn't do this yesterday because I was just gonna hop out on my data.
Well, it's worth the wait, man. And we got something in Louisiana called Louisiana One Call or whatever you're supposed to call before you dig. I don't know if that applies in your case.
Yeah, we need a Texas 2 call.
Perfect.